Hey, Flash, 100-yard dash. We need to get across town.
No.
Okay, not sure about that, but yay!
Zootopia 2 is a good movie. Is it a great movie though? Well, unfortunately, I don't think so. Welcome to my review of Zootopia 2, everybody. Yes, everyone, for a while now I have been waiting for this movie to release, largely because I believe that this film could be a good return to form for Disney. Unfortunately, however, that doesn't seem to have happened. And really, I'll get more into explaining just what I mean by that in a moment. Okay, so for this review, there's a few things I want to talk about. Of course, I want to talk about the animation, I want to talk about the film's story, and by the end of the video, I'd like to talk about why I left this film feeling just a little bit disappointed. Okay, so to start off with a few positives, I want to say that the animation for this film is pretty great. Really, when it comes to the animation of this film, no one's reinventing the wheel. No one's really out there doing a lot of Spider-Verse style experimentation with the animation. Instead, what's happening is a lot more of the same sort of thing that you got in the first film. Really, everything in this film is rendered really well, it's all textured very well, and it's all put together in a way that is very interesting and satisfying. Really, like with the first film, you can see just how much creativity and thought has been put into every aspect of this world. And just by looking at the film, it's self-evident that a lot of the artists and animators working on this film had the most fun just putting this world together and putting these characters in this world. Designing a massive city of various different sized animals was always going to be a challenge, but it seems to be one that these animators and artists have adapted to really well. The animation for this film isn't anything drastically new or improved, but instead appears to just be more of what you got with the original film. Like I've said in some previous videos, I do believe that Disney and Pixar are slowly starting to experiment with their animation styles in the same way that DreamWorks and Sony have, but I do still think that they are a little while off from actually putting anything together on the level of a Puss in Boots 2, for example. And yes, I know that Pixar has that Hoppers movie coming out next year, which I think looks really interesting. I just haven't seen much from Disney Animation itself to suggest that they're doing all that much to really explore a lot of new ideas with their animation. But still, that's not a subject I want to harp on too much about with this video, just because for what it is in this film, I do feel like the animation is really quite well put together. And lastly, on the subject of this film's animation, I just want to say that whilst the animation was put together really quite well, one of my favourite parts of this film just had to be the smaller character animation bits that I noticed. A lot of this film is full of a great number of smaller character animation bits that you will notice just going on in the background of various different scenes throughout the movie. In general, the character animation for this film was really quite interesting and unique. All the characters move very smoothly and have their own unique mannerisms. And just as with the previous film, it really does seem as if the animators took a good amount of inspiration from the animals that these characters are based on. And like I said just a little while ago, I really enjoyed watching this film and noticing a number of smaller character animation bits and jokes in the backgrounds of this film. This movie has some great slapstick and some great visual gags. One of my favourites had to be, of course, a lion cooking with a little Remy rat in his hat. So yes, I really do think that this film is full of some great animation. However, I don't feel like the style of the animation is really doing all that much new with a lot of the different sorts of ideas that are being found in the animation industry currently. Okay, now with that out of the way, we're going to move on to the story of this film. And really, this is where I start to think that some of my problems with the movie become a bit evident. Nick and Judy, played by Jennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman, are back in the sequel, and they're looking for a snake played by Ke Huy Quan. Really, the story of this film centers around an interesting and fun police case and mystery. And honestly, the story of this film as it is perfectly serviceable. I think that with the way the film is currently, it's a perfectly fine movie. I think it might have a few pacing issues, however, but besides that, I don't feel like there's anything all that wrong with the movie. Instead, I only believe that this film starts to get a little problematic when you really try to delve into a lot of the themes and ideas behind this movie. Which, before anybody gets confused, is not me saying that I think that there was any sorts of controversial aspects to this film's story. Instead, I actually admired this film's attempts to touch on ideas of institutional corruption and greed. Really, I only think that this movie began to falter with these ideas once you actually take a good look at what happens in the film. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of this film is just paced so strangely that a lot of the film's own ideas and characters don't get enough time to actually stand out and be properly developed. To me, this movie felt as if it was moving a mile a minute, and that made it feel as if certain characters and certain story ideas weren't getting enough time to be properly developed. For one example of what I mean, I want to talk about one character briefly, and that is the character of Paulbert Linksley, played by Andy Samberg. I think that this is one of the film's more interesting characters. Really, this character is placed in an interesting spot between his own family and Nick and Judy. The film gives this character some good motivations to do the things he does, and it starts to fit him into a villain role. And really, by the time this character fell into this sort of villain role, I really began to actually become quite interested in the character and really started to like the character. But I also acknowledged that I felt as if this character needed more development for me to really understand what type of person he is. Andy Samberg plays the role really pretty well, and really tries to do a lot with the script he's been given. Unfortunately though, I just feel as if the movie isn't giving either him or his character enough time to really be as interesting as they could be. And again, I think that this is a shame, because I really believe that this character has everything it needs to be really quite interesting. The character has a unique and interesting relationship with his parents and family, and also has a really quite unique and interesting backstory. However, unfortunately, due to this film's rather rapid pacing, I feel as if something got lost in translation, and this character started to stop being treated as a real villain, and instead got treated more as a joke. By the time of the film's third act, I became so close to actually liking this character and really getting invested in this character, but by the time that third act came around, this character started to become less of a real character and instead become more of a joke, which I found really both kind of disappointing and confusing. And honestly, I feel as if I was left confused just because I thought that this sort of pattern had occurred multiple times throughout the film. And really, it made me think as if there were a variety of other characters and ideas in this film that only got briefly touched on by the story. And lastly, that left me thinking that maybe there was another version of this film that didn't get to cinemas. And what I mean by that is that I feel as if there was another version of this film that properly developed all of its story and character ideas. However, a lot of these ideas must have been trimmed down and edited out in the version of the story we received. Really, a lot of this film reminds me of Frozen 2, which was another Disney sequel that really, I think, suffered from a lot of the same problem. The film had too many ideas and characters, and in the end became somewhat watered down by a lot of the stuff that had to be taken out of the film. And really, a lot of that became evident in the Frozen 2 documentary, Into the Unknown, The Making of Frozen 2. And honestly, this is something I'd really like to see for this film, Zootopia 2. Because really, this film touches on so many different story and character ideas that I really would like to see just how those ideas came about and how they were developed. And really, this is a trend that I think extends all the way back to the original film as well. Because really, if you go back and you look at a lot of the behind the scenes material for the original film, you'll see that even with that film there are a good number of story concepts that only got briefly touched on by the release version of the film. So having something like that for Zootopia 2 on Disney Plus, I think would be really quite interesting to see. Okay, so really that's the movie, and honestly, for what it is perfectly serviceable. It's a good movie. Unfortunately though, however, there are a number of story and pacing decisions that kept me from saying the movie was great. In its current form, I definitely thought that the movie was good, but I also thought that a number of character and story details were left a little underdeveloped. So whilst I did enjoy watching the movie and I did have a good time, I did also feel a little disappointed just by some of the roads not taken with a few of these story and character decisions. But still, having said what I've said, don't get me wrong, because of course this movie is still going to get ranked on my top 10 animated films of 2025 when that video releases in a couple of weeks. So yes, I thought that Zootopia 2 was good but not great. But hey, that's just my opinion. Please, let me know what you thought of this movie in the comments section down below. Thank you all for watching, everybody. Please don't forget to do all the usual YouTube stuff, like, subscribe and comment, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.